Time for a good old-fashioned best ball draft. But you've seen a lot of those, and the streamer picks the strategy. I'm not picking it. You guys are picking it. You submitted the strategies. They're on the wheel. We're going to spin it. That's what I got to do in this draft here at Spike Week. Let's try. Good morning. What's up? Definitely going to be some chaos. Good morning. Good morning. For anyone, of course, if you're here, you did see. Life is a thing, even for idiot best ball streamers. And I've just discovered through trial and error, mostly error, these mornings are going to be it's going to work so much better for the old schedule. Yeah, exactly. Early Erik. Say that one 5 times fast. So moving forward, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Of course, today is Thursday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll do 10. We'll do some 10 a.m. Eastern drafting. Have a little bit of fun. You can have your coffee or your mid-morning snack or wherever on the time zone. Spectre. I just combined sphincter, I think, with spectrum. Wherever you fit amongst the time zones, we can hang out. We can draft some best ball teams here in the morning. The Monday evening new show, Best Ball Basement with myself and Rob, is not going anywhere. You know, we'll still have Legendary Sickos, and we're still working on recorded videos. We're doing all that kind of stuff. But these draft streams, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with myself, will be at this new time, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to get in on submitting some ideas for this draft, if it's your first time, the folks in the Spike Week Discord, which of course there is a link to, you can join that for free and submit your ideas for the stream. That part does not, you don't have to be a premium member, but of course, if you are a premium subscriber to the Best Ball tools, rankings, content, everything like that, you get free access to the Discord. If you just want to hop in the Discord, that's just $5 a month to get access to the full kitty of everything that goes on over there. But if you want to submit, you'll see in a second some of these rules that are on the wheel, of which I do not get to decide what the draft is. There are some fun ones. There are some serious ones. So far, we epically failed last week so badly that I had to do a follow-up stream and eat a bunch of hot dogs for every mistake that I made. Much more difficult to remember 40 times, I learned last week. Also, a lot more guys who are awesome at fantasy that don't run that fast of a 40 is the real lesson, other than I'm an idiot. I think people misconstrue, myself included, misconstrue 40 times in speed and stuff, and how, like, CeeDee Lamb, not that fast, right? Like a lot of these guys, not that fast at the top. Derrick Henry was not that fast. So some interesting things we've done, like some alphabet drafts. We've done height drafts and all this different kind of stuff. So there's fun stuff on here, and there's some a little bit more serious stuff. We'll see what we get today. If you would like to submit some rules, you have some ideas for some rules that you would like to see someone draft off of. Can be fun, can be serious, can be no food, please. We've done enough food for a little bit. So I'm not eating stuff at 9 a.m. Based on making a bad pick or whatever. But if you want to submit, go in the link in the description to the Spike Week Discord, join, all that kind of stuff. It's in the live streams and in media channel. Good morning. Good morning. There's something similar to this. Big Draft Energy says NFC West correlation. There's something very, very similar to this on the wheel already. I think we're going to do, as we pull up the wheel, I think we're going to do a DraftKings Milly Maker draft. So the $20 on DraftKings this morning. We'll rotate around, right? We'll do drafters, we'll do some underdog, we'll do whatever for these drafts. But I kind of like the 20 rounds a little bit better for the wheel drafts, because it creates extra chaos, right? If you have, like, the very first draft we did, as I mentioned, was I cannot draft a player with the first letter of their last name being the same as another, right? So if I draft Drake London, no more L's, right? If you draft AJ Brown, you can't draft any player with the name starting with B, right? All that kind of stuff. When we add the 2 extra rounds, it makes it a lot more fun when you have kind of some of these funky rules. So we'll draft over on DraftKings. Amen. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel. You see a bunch of the prompts on here. I've removed the ones that have been used already. And let's go ahead and see what we're going to do today in our draft. Oh, this is a fun one. A little bit more serious, but also, can be funny because these will probably be some players I'm not totally in love with. But the rule for the audio listeners is draft only players you are, quotes, underweight on, less than 8%. So, right, 8%, 1 out of every 12 would be about 8%, which would be if you draft the guy if you draft the guy 8% of the time, you're about at the field, or whatever silly words we love to use in best ball. So I have to draft all players, 20 different players in this draft that I am underweight on. It's funny, he says a chance to stack the Bills. I wonder how many I am underweight Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid for sure. I would not say I'm underweight Josh Palmer, and I've been drafting Keon lately, and I love Ray Davis. So this will be interesting. I don't exactly look at this stuff before we start the draft. We just try to let it rip once we get on here. So it's not like I can predict what the wheel is going to come up with. Let's go on over here. Where the hell is NFL? Why am I missing this? Jesus, it's too early. I'm used to those evening drafts. We'll hop on in here, and the rule, of course, if you just joined, is that oh wow, insta-fills. So the nice thing about doing this draft as a Spike Week person, this is a great comment. The draft hacker is loading. I want to see. So it's funny you say that. You can see using the draft hacker here on Spike Week, I can see my exposures, right? So the very first number, for anybody that has not used it before, seen it before, what have you, all these percentages are different percentages that I have of the player that will be shown on the screen with players I've already drafted, right? So like first one is with my quarterback 1, my running back 1, my wide receiver 1, my tight end 1, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 1 plus 2, right? So every time you take Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it'll show me what my exposure is to that player when I drafted both of those guys, not just one of them. So we, of course, do get the 101 here, and that makes the first round pick very easy because I only have 5% Jamar Chase. Not intentional. I just have not got the 101 very much over here on DraftKings.com. But it is going to make this a lot easier because I know exactly what my exposure is without having to do any research, right? I would imagine most people drafting on DraftKings would have a very difficult time with this rule, actually, because they don't know their exposure is certainly not live in their draft. So shout out to the draft hacker. You get that as a part of Spike Week Premium. But to this comment, I actually have 11% Jahmyr Gibbs. I have 2% Bijan and Saquon. So that would definitely make sense. But like I said, I have an easy out with Chase. I have 19% CD, 21% Puka, I think, 18% Neighbors, right? So you can kind of see my first round exposures there. So we're gonna do Jamar Chase. I did zoom in a tick too much. NFC West has the most advantageous schedule for both running backs and wide receiver based on my projections. Yep, that's interesting. I'll have to go take a look. Yeah, I mean, Puka is just so first of all, I think Puka, I believe I have Puka 106, so it's not like I'm like that crazy. But Puka and Neighbors, and Puka's just like there, readily available there to me very frequently. I will say those do align generally with what I'm trying to do. I don't know how many. Hold on, let me look up how many drafts I am in so far on DraftKings, so I can give some context to let's just share it real quick, since we got time. We're the 101. This is all right. Let's see, drafts. That's BBM. Let's go to DraftKings. 64 total. So 33 in the Milly. That percentage is of the 64. So I do all tournaments as my exposure. I understand why people will show their individual tournaments, and sometimes I'll show both. I might actually do that here starting soon once this number gets a lot higher. Once I've done the full 20 max, once I've done all these like 5 and 6 max and everything that they have. So amongst 64 teams, you can see my exposure. Obviously, lots of Will Shipley, lots of Jordan Mason, lots of Jarquez Hunter, Devontae Smith, actually very high up there, right? Some of these guys pretty high up there on this list. But Puka is my 105. So I was wrong. Puka is my 105, Gibbs 106, Neighbors 107, Bijan 108 is how I have them ranked. And so when you have Puka 105, right, you just naturally get a lot of Puka. And I think I'm very happy with that. I think you could make a case that Puka should go higher than 105. I know that's maybe a little bit a stretch too far, but I mean, I just think he's that good of a pick. If the way that we look at players and it being like so heavily reliant on what they did in past seasons is really fascinating to me, because Puka had the best 2 seasons to start an NFL career essentially ever by a wide receiver from an efficiency perspective. He did miss some games, and he only scored 9 touchdowns. And so, Jesus, 111 taking Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield. That's fun. But if Puka scored any touchdowns, can you imagine what we would be speaking about him as? He scored 9 touchdowns. I've joked, with some other people, because we go back and we look at fantasy results of players and we're like, oh, look, he had this, he was this wide receiver X, he's wide receiver 45 and we get him in the 17th round, or right, he had X amount of big games. And it's like, that is something, but that also leads you to often really overvaluing touchdowns. And we know how much they sway year to year. We were talking in the lab last night about Alec Pierce, and Alec Pierce scored 7 touchdowns last year, and he had 4 total in his first two seasons. And it's like, did he get better? Maybe. All right, we're back on the clock. Yes. All right, so I can't do T. He's officially at 8. We got to be underweight T. But I am going to do, as Best Ballin said, we're going to take Josh Allen, because I have 6% Josh Allen. But I had 5% Bucky Irving, 6% Josh Allen, and 5% Jamar Chase. So we're off to a nice start for my exposures. Shout out, Mac. The strategy today, Mac, is I can only draft players who I'm underweight on, aka under 8% exposure. Those are the players that I can draft today. Yeah, that's a great point. We came into this thinking it was going to be a unique draft, and it is a unique draft in a very different way. I think I don't know what if we created a show title for this or whatever. I don't really want to do that actually, but this would be like the unique drafts, right? Because they are going to naturally be unique, because you guys are giving me these crazy weird rules that I have to follow. And I'm not creating like bad teams, honestly. Like every team we've drafted so far, I think has been pretty good, relatively speaking. It becomes this like hilarious, it's like satire, sitcom or something like that, right? Where it's like they're making fun of something, they're having a good time, they're joking about, whatever silly thing that we humans do, but it's actually like you learn some form of a lesson about it, like Always Sunny or some shit, right? It's really dark. It's really lots of terrible things, but they're actually like making fun of some serious issues that happen in the world. It's like that's what these drafts are. It's like it's a unique draft because this idiot has to draft a bunch of guys who run slow 40 times. But then you get through the draft and you're like, that was a good team, I think. So all those guys are not that fast. Maybe I shouldn't care so much about the port, right? It's like this stupid. It's selfishly, it helps me think about these things a little bit more. But today will also be a good lesson because I don't comb through every single player, all 250 player exposures with a fine tooth comb every morning or anything like that. Okay, there goes Joe Burrow to the 111. We may be wasting our time, but we'll see. You're gonna have a hard time advancing with the 111 cooking like this. Shout out K Sizzle says I enjoyed the conversation yesterday on Zoom. Thanks for doing those comments on those combos on draft theory and structure as well as the state of best ball. Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'll answer that or address that once we get through with the 111 here. See if he rips another quarterback. Really happy I took Josh Allen, by the way. If this guy's going to take all the quarterbacks. Yeah. The 111 spun his own wheel, and the challenge was see if you can get this draft thrown out over on DraftKings.com because that's tough to do. Yeah, there goes Mahomes. This is wild. We'll see. I don't think this is worthy of throwing something out, but we're going to find out soon here. We're going to find out soon if we've wasted our time. Yeah, this is the thing. So, not to get all super serious about this. I don't think this should be disallowed unless this guy is colluding. Right? This I should say, starting with a terrible start, right? Picking the players that you want to pick, or you have them ranked there, or whatever, right? The Gilbert Arenas is not in. This is a peer-to-peer game. We've all signed up to play peer-to-peer. We are allowed to take who we want, and they are allowed to take who they want. Just because we disagree with the order in which you should take a player is like we're wrong about that shit all the time. Look at how if you did that with like wide receivers 5 years ago, people would think you're crazy. All right, back on the 16% can't do that. We are getting some nice. This is a great time to get Xavier Worthy. Damn it, I can't take Hampton. Worthy Sutton looks like the correct move here. Worthy Sutton it is. Underweight both Worthy and Sutton. This is the way. So this is the thing. So long as that person is not colluding, which every site, it is up to all of these best ball sites to put. We have put our faith in DraftKings.com, Underdog.com, right? We've put our faith in all these sites that they have collusion technology in place, right? They're monitoring the drafts to see if and I know for a fact, at least some of them are doing this 100%. I know Disco knows that some, and other guys know that some of these sites are actively monitoring, right? They have automated processes, they have human processes, they're automating or they're analyzing these things. I can't speak to everybody, but I can definitely speak to some of them. So long as that person is not colluding with someone else, cheating, right? Intentionally trying to help someone else get a better team. They draft whatever they want. If you want to draft, I don't care. Right? Just like I don't think you should judge because if I reach on somebody, if I reach on a bunch of guys because I think that they're the best picks, why are we not letting people draft the way that they want to draft? If Gilbert Arenas wants to take 3 quarterbacks, I thought the Gilbert Arenas thing was just like it's an unfortunate look because he is affiliated with the company and then drafting these silly teams, right? That's the only problem with the Gilbert Arenas thing. If he's not fucking cheating, if he wants to do it, who cares? Let him do it. The problem becomes if there's real life issues in terms of cheating, colluding, those kind. If we got people cheating, then of course, right, throw it out. So it's on the sites to let us know when that's happening. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. We just have to put right in life. We got to put faith in some of these things. And I do trust all these companies are doing. Another quarterback, 5 straight quarterbacks for the 111. I'll get this going on the banner here. But Martin asked why. What are you trying to do? Why can't you take Hampton? The rule today from the old wheel of rules was every player that I draft has to be someone I am underweight on, so less than 8%. It cannot be 8%. Has to be under, so 7% or below. Those are the players that I have to draft. And so Hampton does not fit that. Does not fit that bill. I like this. I like this one, by the way. This one is very easy. I don't have to think. The draft hacker tells me who I'm allowed to draft. I don't have to embarrass myself. Well, I'm sure there's going to be players that I'm underweight or overweight on that you're going to see on your screen that's embarrassing, but I'm used to that. That's an embarrassment I have willingly taken on every summer for the last 5 years. I'm an open book. If you want to know, my exposure, you want to know anything about my portfolio, I'll tell anybody. I don't care. Some people will hate it, some people will love it. But look, he took Kyler, but then he took George Pickens. He got a nice value on George Pickens. Yeah, you can only take 5 on DraftKings at quarterback. The interesting thing about this is with all the conversation about taking a bunch of quarterbacks, right? The conversation has become, it seems, we got to take a lot of quarterbacks, take ADP values. This is what we should do, right? If 3 quarterbacks are the best structure, we should, and getting ADP value on these other picks, we should be ripping a bunch of elite quarterbacks. Maybe not quite this, but I think the 111 has just been listening to content that said you got to draft a whole shitload of quarterbacks and trying to follow it, because then you're going to get a bunch of ADP values also. Okay. Is Shakir gone? Oh, shit. I have 10%. See, I've been drafting a little bit more of some of these guys than even I thought. So Deebo, come on down. I'm not sure if everybody saw. We all panicked about the Deebo engagement farm stuff going on over on the Everything app, aka the Nothing app. But his own coach just came out and said, yeah, Deebo's fine. I think he's the fastest player on the team. Like, no joke. I'm taking Jerry Jeudy just because I have to take these underweight players, but it makes me very uncomfortable to take Jerry Jeudy. But it's so funny how like our market works. I'm not saying it happened in this draft. Of course, there's going to be a lot of fallers. I mean, the funny thing is they have a bunch of fast guys. The Commanders do. So I think it's right. It's like we will draw whatever. People came in to this season thinking Deebo was washed and Deebo was fat and slow. That was the assumption. So anytime, no matter what happened this summer, no matter what the coaches said, no matter what Deebo said, no matter what Jaden Daniels says, it doesn't matter. We just needed confirmation bias, right? All I needed was someone to circulate a clip when they're running against air, right? People who've clearly not practiced football before. You're just running like some like 3/4 speed routes against air, getting warmed up, right? Working on, timing and that kind of stuff. There are no pad. They don't have any pads on, but it makes for great social media content, right? Because everything is about, engagement and particularly, if you make fun of someone, it's going to get a lot more engagement than if you hype someone up. And so it was a stone cold lock that we would get something. Isn't Deebo looking fat to you? And it's like, I don't know. Deebo's kind of always looked fat. Like that's his build. He's like a kind of a chunkier dude. And then like we were going to get a clip. It is what it is. The coach just came out and said he just cooked dudes on a deep ball and he looks fast as shit. And everybody's going to absolutely ignore that because it doesn't fit the narrative. This is it. Like, no, and we don't ever go back and like reanalyze that stuff. Keenan Allen was so fat that he was the most productive wide receiver on a truly disastrous offense, and he provided absolutely amazing spike weeks in the fantasy playoffs. He was old and fat. You could never draft him. Got to draft Rome Odunze, right? Got to draft Rome Odunze because he's the young, fast guy. Keenan is fat and old, and it's like Keenan was the guy popping in the fantasy playoffs last year. And like we just don't, we refuse to learn. You know what I mean? We didn't learn from Kamani Vidal. We didn't learn from Deuce Vaughn. We didn't learn from Keenan Allen. We haven't learned on Devontae Adams in 4 years. Everybody's been writing his fucking obituary for a half decade. and it's like, I don't know. He just still keeps doing Devontae Adams things, and we keep getting him in the 3rd round or whatever. I'm not saying that Devontae is going to be that. I'm just saying we just are always going to confirm the things and then ignore the mistakes that we made in the past, right? We're going to draft 3 quarterbacks because we think we didn't draft enough quarterback, but we're never going to learn that like pick 100 Keenan Allen last year because everybody said he was fat was an awesome pick, right? Because it doesn't fit the way we think about the game. Deebo even said, like Max says, Deebo is one of the guys that always came into camp bulky because he thins out during camp. Deebo even said, he literally said that this year. He's like Luka. Deebo's like Luka Doncic. Okay, we are back on the clock. Oh, nice. Okay, I have 6% B-Rob, 16% Darnell Mooney. Woof, we got to get that number down. Evan Ingram actually looks nice here. Have not drafted Evan Ingram on DraftKings.com. All right, let's do B-Rob because I'm now 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers. Let's do Evan Ingram. Correlates with Xavier Worthy in week 17. Get a little week 17 correlation action on some players I'm underweight on. I love it. Yeah, we view as older player, because an older player or a veteran, right, or a guy on the decline, because we think about it in like breakouts as upside, right? Or he is better. He continues to get better, right? Brian Thomas, Lab McConkey, JSN, Jameson Williams, Breece Hall a couple years ago, whatever, right? It's the young player. We always want to get the Kyron and get the Achane and get the Puka and get that stuff. Those are awesome. Like we want those for sure. But there's in best ball, like I would not have drafted this. I think it's redraft brain that sneaks into our best ball process, which makes sense. We all came from, right? We all came from redraft. We've all played. Best ball is fairly new. We played redraft for a long time, and it's easy to say, well, there's just no reason to draft Keenan Allen last year in redraft, and there wasn't. He was a terrible redraft pick, even at a cheaper price, right? I'm not going to draft Devontae in redraft this year, but I think he's a pretty good best ball pick. Khalil Shakir. I wouldn't touch Khalil Shakir with a 100-foot pole in redraft, no chance. But in best ball, attached to Josh Allen, what if they pass more? Seems good, awesome. Like the what you can benefit from when you never have to pick your starting lineup, and you don't need you can't like recoup, right? You can't recoup misses. You miss, it's over. The underpriced veteran can be almost as valuable when they become underpriced. And the whole bet is, what if the market thinks it's over for Keenan or Devontae or whoever? Pick your guy. When the market thinks it's over, asking yourself, what if that's wrong? What do I get? What if Keenan Allen is still Keenan Allen? Sounds good. easy, right? And we keep on working our way down that path, and I think it's just not unexplored. It is an underutilized path to upside in best ball. Something that it's taken me. We've been playing this game. This is year 6, right? This is year 6 of Underdog. So Spike League has been doing this for 5 years. This is summer number 5 that we've been doing full time, best ball stuff. It's taken me honestly until like last summer, like probably like partway through last summer, where I was finally like, okay, I think this Keenan thing is a little ridiculous. Like pick 100. What are we doing here? And it's like well, it's because it's not only young guys that are the ones that offer upside at their cost. And because the market has gotten so obsessed with young guys, as I am, as it probably should be, oftentimes the older guys end up being some of the best buys on the board. If we suck all the upside out of most of the youth, we pull up every young player because Marvin Harrison's going at the 1-2 turn. It's like, well, the older players can be really beneficial again in best ball for sure. All right. Oh, this is funny. We just talked about Skattebo last night. I do need some more running backs. I have 2% Skattebo. I'm just really not into. Here's an interesting one. I only have 5% Rashad Bateman, but I'm absolutely not taking him on this team because, as you see here, I have him on an outsized number of teams with Josh Allen and with Jamar Chase. So there's no real reason that I should have, with Bucky. So kind of all my Allen and Bucky teams, obviously not all, a large percentage of my Allen and Bucky teams already have Bateman. So we're going to move it on down to another player who I don't, Njoku. And this is another guy I've been looking to target a little bit more. I guess the question is, should I wait for Kincaid if he would even come back? I'm gonna panic take. Oh shit! I did. I was just about to panic take Jordan Love because I could backstack him, but we took Njoku. So this may be unstacked Josh Allen or the scary 3 tight end with Dalton Kincaid. We shall see. He may not even make it back, honestly. Yeah, I got no problem with Ramondre over Skattebo, but this was a decent excuse to get a Cam Skattebo team for me today. Decent excuse. No. Who Hames asks, are you into Elijah Moore? Absolutely not. This makes sense. We will find out. I'll let you guys know. Yeah, I think this is also very, very true. This is also true. Aaron Rodgers isn't even Rodgers didn't even want to show up to camp, and we're expecting Rodgers is going to take the Steelers over the top, right? Rodgers is improving the Steelers. Now we got to draft DK Metcalf, and it's like, well, Rodgers is not participating in camp, not interested, probably not in shape, among a myriad of other issues with Aaron Rodgers. But when the receiver shows up and he's going to work his way in, it's just interesting. I find all of the psychology of the best ball space to be the most interesting part of it all, because we'll put our brain in pretzels and probably our tongue in pretzels trying to figure out how to make the arguments for our favorite players and against the same argument against someone else. It's just we're all human, right? I like this guy, I don't like this guy. And then when we are approached with, well, there's some issues that both of them have, we'll make excuses for the guy that we like and not so much for the other guy. Ooh, Silix asks, what round would we draft Skattebo in if he landed on the Cowboys? That is a great question. Considering the fact that we're drafting Jaden Blue at pick 130 or whatever, I would say quite high on Skattebo. Where Caleb Johnson goes. All else equal, if he's a 4th round pick, if Skattebo's a 4th round pick, still, but he lands on the Cowboys instead of the Giants. I think we take him from pick 100 to pick 70, maybe. The offensive upgrade is probably worth something like that. I don't think we can take him in front of the second round players, and I think that's I shouldn't say we can't. I don't think the market would allow for that. Another rule, right? The best ball market loves to make is I kind of can't draft, RJ Harvey and Henderson, and those guys have to go ahead because of draft capital. Outside of extenuating circumstances, then once we get to a certain cheaper point, then you get to Jaden Blue or Kamani Vidal or Kyle Williams or whatever. I'll say somewhere around like pick 70 or something like that. I had a Caleb Johnson behind Travion Henderson. This is funny. Martin and I are Captain America Civil War and it up here. Iron Man versus Captain America. He's taking stands on all these guys, and I am. You signed the Sokovia Accords, and I did not sign the Sokovia Accords. That's the difference here between you and I. I don't know I don't know what that analogy really means. Speaking of Kyle Williams, 0. Damn it, 13% Ray. Yeah, Kincaid is gone, so we're gonna have unstacked Josh Allen, unfortunately. This does seem like a good time to get Kyle Williams, though. Kyle Williams and Jack Besh, and I think that's a little too much. Maybe Hollywood. Let's see. I'll read off some of the Besh, Thielen, but I don't want to do Thielen. Hollywood. I could build out the Chiefs thing. Let's do that. I have Worthy. Kind of got that game stack a little bit going here already with Ingram, Sutton, right? I have Ingram, Sutton, Hollywood. Let me change this to show playoffs over here and then move my fat head out of the way. As you see here, that's my 1 week 17 correlation I got going here. Worthy and Hollywood on the Chiefs side, Sutton and Ingram on the Broncos side. So that week 17 maybe something to consider for some additional tiebreakers here outside of obviously the fact that the rule today for anyone that has just now joined on Thursdays, we do best ball drafts, but we make a kind of a rule I have to follow, right? Sometimes they're a little bit silly. Sometimes they're quite serious. The Spike Week community in the Discord, link in description, is submitting these rules to me every single week, and then I spin the wheel with all the rules on it. We've done some interesting ones thus far, to say the least, but today's rule was that I cannot draft a player, or excuse me, I can only draft players I am air quotes underweight on, meaning I have less than 8% of these players, 7% or less exposure to them thus far. Those are the only players that I can draft. So that is why this team looks the way that it does. And I actually really like, this is another one, like the overwhelming majority of these rules, even if they are silly, you like kind of learn something about yourself, right? Like go in and say, I'm gonna do the same thing, this rule in a draft, and you'll like find guys you're like, I'm overweight that guy. Oof. I don't know if I want to have that much of that guy. Or, oh my gosh, I don't have any of that guy. Do I want that to be the case? Maybe I do. Or maybe this is the team to take him on. Like I always find these kind of experiments to be really good. If you just go in like a robot all fucking summer and you draft the same teams with the same players, A, it's boring. We should have a little bit of fun. We're allowed to have a little bit of fun in some drafts. And B, like you learn shit about, like, it's easy to overlook things when you just keep ripping drafts, right? Without like actually looking at your portfolio, you're going to find out like, wow, I don't have, like, I like Cam Skattebo. Maybe you really like Cam Skattebo. You're like, I really like Cam Skattebo and I really like Josh Allen, and I've never drafted them together. I've never drafted a Jaguar stack with a Bills stack. I've drafted 400 teams And I don't have any if you don't like look at it and think about it, you go into the season with a portfolio that doesn't even look like what you think it does, because all everybody looks at is the individual player exposures. And it's like you could have a bunch of individual player exposures that seem like what you want, but you don't have the guys all matched up together how you want, right? If you draft the same team every time, you got 30% Rashee Rice, but he's always on a team with CeeDee Lamb. It's like you got 30% Rashee Rice, and you never drafted him with Justin Jefferson, not one time. Oh God, Wandale, absolutely not. A lot of tight ends. How about Dowdle? 6% Dowdle. Don't have Dowdle with any of these guys on this team. Straight zeros across the board. Let's do a little Dowdle. What? That's my fourth running back with a Bucky Irving hero running back. I'm absolutely not doing Wan'Dale Robinson. I think we're gonna do. God damn it, 15% Josh Palmer, and he's already on my Josh Allen teams. 11% Braylon. Shit, man. We're just gonna take Justice Hill because I'm panic clicking, and I needed a running back, and there was only 2 seconds left on the clock. I don't love that one, but we follow the rules. He's not Palmer, not an option. I have 15% of him. 100%. Peppertoni says you would never ever submit the same DFS lineup or draft the same battle royale team 150 times. Why would you do it in best ball? Now, there are reasons to draft. There are reasons to draft the same players together repeatedly, right? When they become a little bit cheaper, right? Having a shitload of, like, I have a bunch of teams with Tyler Algier and Will Shipley on them, but like these guys are after pick 150, right? So that's a little bit different. I want them to be, but I'm drafting them together a lot because I want them to be with all of the, right? I want them to be on Gibbs teams, and I want them to be on Chase teams, and I want them to be on McBride teams, and I want them to be on Worthy teams, right? I want them to be on all of those teams. That's why I buy them over and over. And right there's pod variants. So it's okay to draft some of the same teams over and over, but like every time, like if you just stick to ADP, your exposures are going to look too much so the same, right? There's a line, like you want zero just because of pot, like when it's not a correlated thing or it's not an intentional thing. When it's intentional, if you just say, I want an absolute shitload of these couple of players, I want them and I want them together, right? I want to draft a ton of Jamar Chase, Trey McBride. They're both awesome picks. They play in week 17. I'm just going to draft it a ton. Cool. That's an intentional decision. The problem is most of the time it ends up not being intentional, right? Spoken from someone who has done a lot of unintentional, stands and player combinations forever. It just happens. It happens, it's going to happen regardless. But if you're not looking for it, it's really going to happen. And if you're just like sticking to ADP, right? It's always going to happen to you. And when you do it that way, not only did you draft the same teams in your own portfolio, you drafted the same teams that everybody else drafted in their portfolio, right? You draft 3 quarterbacks every time. Guess what? 70+% of people draft 3 quarterbacks every time. Okay. You did the same thing. They also draft 3 tight ends most of the time. All right. You did the same thing as them. Oh, you just took the guy at ADP every time. Okay. Now you have the same player combinations. How are you going to win with this team other than go buy a scratch off lottery ticket, right? You didn't do anything to try to create an edge, So anyway, enough about that. Clearly you can tell these are the stupid ass things that I care very much. Bobby says, I like this tool you're using. How much for that puppy in the window? Yeah, this is the draft hacker that we built here at Spike Week. It comes as a part of if you buy Spike Week Premium, it is $40 per month. You can of course cancel anytime, and you get everything. You get rankings, the draft hacker, Draft IQ that I showed earlier in the show, where you can do the analysis of the portfolio, right? All of our premium content. There's a ton of other tools out there that I can't sit here and talk for 20 minutes about. You get absolutely everything for just $40, right? We're not charging you we are pay for the content, and then you're going to pay a separate fee for the tools, and you're going to pay an upcharge for this, and you pay for baseball different than you pay for basketball. It was like, enough of that bullshit, right? $40, you get absolutely everything. You get it works for every sport, right? Not just football. Maybe you're into baseball or golf or whatever, all that kind of stuff, rankings, everything, all for that price. Jalen Noel feels like a decent pick on this team for a guy that I'm not drafting very much. I actually don't think that should be. I don't think I'm not sure that it's very smart that I've only drafted 3% Jalen Noel. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing Kareem Hunt. I'm just not doing it. I'm probably going to do Dylan Sampson here, I think. Let's do Dylan Sampson. I'm also just now realizing I don't have a second quarterback. Talking too much. I love trying different strategies. I'm forced to draft all 2682 in the Schnauzer 2 just for fun. Try it. So I drafted. It's very funny you bring that up. I drafted 150 teams in the Puppy 3 last year on Underdog. So I maxed it and I auto drafted it. And I said, I'm going to auto draft these and I'm going to draft solo tight end. Right, meaning a singular tight end. Now, I moved up a lot, right? I had Bowers way ahead of ADP. I McBride ahead of ADP, Kittle ahead of ADP. But I had certain guys, luckily the tight end thing worked out. Or I had Jonnu way ahead of ADP. So it was strategic. I said, I'm gonna make this my trust the ranks, I'm only gonna draft one tight end on all these teams, and then trust my kind of ranks and process and see how this thing turned out. Now, I had not a great season last year, right? A 15% advance rate or so across the board. Not 15, 16. I think it was 15 in BBM and like 16 overall across DraftKings and Underdog, all tournaments. So not very good, like, right around just a tick below expectation. But in the Puppy 3, because I did that, I actually had a significantly higher advance rate. Like all my best teams, highest scoring teams. I don't know if I would quantify them as best. My best teams were in the Puppy 3, right? When you had a solo Bowers teams with a bunch of with Chuba on there and Jordan Mason on there and Bucky on there, and right, if you do that, you had some pretty goddamn good teams. So it was interesting to look back and see experimenting like that. That's not I'm not going to just like auto draft a bunch of solo tight end teams. It's not what I think is the best way to do it, but I tried it to see how this thing would work out, right? Trust your ranks and then try this one strategy that people think is stupid. And maybe it is, but people think is stupid, and it actually worked quite well. I didn't win the Puppy 3 or anything like that, but I had a really good year in that tournament trying out that strategy. Martin says, I feel bad for whoever's in this draft, and you got it. Yeah. So to recap some of this draft, if you just joined, my rule in this draft, right? Every Thursdays we spin the wheel. It tells me a rule submitted by the Spike Weekers. I have to draft only players I'm underweight on, exposure wise, which became a very interesting exercise, specifically because the 111 drafted 5 straight quarterbacks to start: Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Kyler Murray. And then the whatever this is, the 106 just took Geno, Rodgers, Daniel Jones, and Anthony Richardson all in a row in rounds 13 to 16. So there are no more starting quarterbacks, and this is going to turn into a solo Josh Allen team. I'm just not going to take a quarterback too. We're just going to ride or die with Josh Allen. I'll deal with the 0 in his bye week. I'm not forcing, right? If I take a quarterback, I'm taking 2 quarterbacks on basically all my teams. So I'm not going to make this sound like I think just drafting one is the correct strategy. What I will say is forcing a backup who is also unlikely to even be playing in Josh Allen's bye week is not accomplishing anything, right? I'm gonna use Josh Allen's score every week because there are no more starters left. Even if I need to get lucky just for whoever I draft here to be starting during Josh Allen's bye week, and then it's like, how much am I really gaining with this? Like taking players you don't want to cover some gaps on your team. Like every team has gaps you can't cover, right? Like taking Shador here. I imagine this guy just got screwed. No, he has Knicks and Caleb's. Like you've been told you have to take 3 quarterbacks, so you take Shador Sanders. Like he might not be on the active roster, right? We're just taking guys because we've created these rules for ourselves instead of applying really, really important context to the rule, right? The rule if there's a rule that says you need to take 3 quarterbacks, we need to understand the quarterbacks that are in those 3. It's not any right, and it's not any draft capital. It's not any. There's reasons why we would draft those 3 quarterbacks, and it's not just we draft 3 because 3 advances better. But like, why does 3 advance? What makes up those 3? What makes up the team? Why is it advancing better? Why is that the most important metric, right? Why is scoring the most points the most important? All that kind of stuff. All right, now I ranted and raved, and I'm gonna get friggin' autoed. Somebody here, 4, 3. Oh no, Brashard, boom. There's my last running back probably. Brashard Smith is actually a guy who I'm not really trying to get to be that underweight on. He's like him and Eli Mitchell, I'm just like dabbling in at the end of drafts when things are necessary. I'll do Tesla. I'll do Isaac Tesla. Yeah, decent, but like, is that even a guarantee? What if Dylan Gabriel starts week 1? What if I just, those are like, we're very confident that Joe Flacco is going to be on a tanking team. Why isn't it Pickett? Why isn't it Gabriel? Everybody thinks Shador is going to be, and again, I'm not saying if hand up, my bet would be Joe Flacco as well. But like, I'm not going to sit here and try to be that confident about these things. Bryce Young last year, heading into last year, we were wildly confident that Bryce Young was going to start the whole season. It's like, yeah, he's the number 1 overall pick a year ago. They're just never going to bench him. Benched. Anthony Richardson, top 5 pick. Benched. Right? Like, guys also get hurt. Flacco could get hurt. Like, there's just so much to that. Will Levis benched, right? Like, all these guys just get benched. Justin Fields played well relative for Justin Fields, right? Relatively speaking. Not well compared to Josh Allen, but like for Justin Fields, he was fine. He was not the reason why they weren't having that much success for the Steelers. And again, I'm not saying he shouldn't have been benched or all that. I'm just saying, like, there's so much chaos. 2 years ago, I believe it was 64 quarterbacks started a football game. Last year was 59. That's like, every year we're getting 2 quarterbacks per team on average. And so think about that. When you have a third of the league, that guy starts the whole season. They start all 17 games, right? Josh Allen starts all 17 games, maybe 16 if these guys sit out in week 18. So we have a bunch of teams starting 3 or 4 different quarterbacks, but we're real goddamn confident we can predict who's starting and when. It's like, okay, do the prediction exercise and then judge yourself against your results, and you'll realize how bad we are at this. I'm bad at it. Do you think I thought Bryce Young was going to get benched in week 4 or whatever for Andy Dalton? Fuck no. I can't believe that happened. It turned out the Panthers were right. Bryce came back and he's played better. I just try not to be overconfident in things that there's really no reason for me to be overconfident in. If I had a reason to be overconfident in all of my NFL predictions, I love you guys. I would not be here fucking doing this. I would just rake in the money predicting the NFL. You can predict which quarterback is starting when, right? How many points these guys are going to score in week 17, who's going to be starting in week 17, right? Which guy's too fat. You can predict all that. Then you don't need best ball. You need to find God. No, but you need to like go invest this money in some things that can make you a whole lot of money where there isn't this chaos and you have to sit on your money for a year. You don't get paid out till January. It's June. Yes, I am overconfident in Will Shipley. The funny thing about Will Shipley is if somebody's it's not, I wouldn't even call it like overconfidence. I'm more confident than the market. So maybe that is overconfidence. But I really just think how I tend to rank guys like a Shipley or like an Algier or Kyron a couple of years ago or whatever, or Darrington Evans many years ago, is not even that I'm predicting this thing to happen, more so that like, what do I win when I win? Right? We got both Giants running backs going at pick 100. Saquon Barkley is the 102 in drafts. And his second year, they let Gainwell go. They sign a corpse in A.J. Dillon. And Will Shipley was, for the longest time, going in the last round. It's like, explain to me how the Giants guys are valued at pick 100. Both Steelers running backs on one of the worst offenses in the NFL, projectably one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Both Steelers guys go in the top 95. And like, I know they're going to get work, right? But like, what do I win if Will Shipley is the thing? It's like all the money. What do you win? What do you win if Will Shipley is the thing? All of the money, and the cost is so cheap to get him. All right, last pick. Absolutely not Jameis. Yeah, it's definitely possible Jalen Milroe is getting goal line touches in week 6. I agree with you, Donnie. How do you feel about the double up on Dimes and a Rich juice worth the squeeze? I don't like doing it, but I do think in this particular draft, now I wouldn't have done it on that team. I would have done it on a 3 quarterback team, right? You take Geno and then take both Giants or something like that. I didn't say those names because of the week 17 thing. That wasn't my intention. Holy cow! I think I might have to go over to running back here, guys. Okay, I've been wanting to get a little more Taj, so Taj Brooks it is. No, absolutely not. Yeah, Daniel says Shipley gives you some of the best leverage in the game. Pre-draft, you could get him around 20. It was amazing, 100%. Yeah, I'm not taking Elijah Moore. I would be a little shocked if Elijah Moore made the team. It's gonna be close. Let's see. So the Bills wide receivers. Let's take a peek, see at the Bills. We'll go on over to, we'll just use old ESPN.com. Go to the Buffalo Bills. We go to the depth chart. So Khalil Shakir starting slot receiver. Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer starting outside wide receivers. Elijah Moore would be your backup slot receiver based on this ESPN thing. However, Curtis Samuel is mostly a slot, and they do have a bunch of these other names behind him. I would give Curtis Samuel, given his contract, a lock on a roster spot. We'll see about Visca, but Elijah Moore's got to beat out Tyrell Shavers, who they seem to really like. Liked him last year. Who knows about Jalen Virgil, KJ Hamler, and Caden Prather, right? Christian Wilkerson, I believe, is a special teamer. Former Patriot Christian Wilkerson, special teamer. It's just like, at what point do we stop with the Elijah Moore thing? Like, if we treated every wide receiver the way we treat Elijah, and I am a full-blown past, like, historical Elijah Moore slappy. Loved him in college, loved him coming into the league, loved him even after he sucked for 3 years. Like, I'm with you on Elijah Moore. He was one of my guys. But what is the path exactly? Right? So they got the 2 tight end thing. We think they're going to play 2 tight ends because we draft Dalton Kincaid, even though we know Dawson Knox is going to play. Elijah Moore's not an outside wide receiver. He's a little guy. He's the best in the slot. Well, they have a bunch of slot receivers, including their best receiver. Khalil Shakir is a slot receiver, right? Curtis Samuel is best in the slot. It's just like, what do I win? Like, how am I winning with Elijah Moore? I just don't really see it. I'll just take guys on other teams. I don't have to force guys just because you drafted Josh Allen one of the big, again, we're talking about a lot of things I've learned from lots of mistakes over the years today. One of the big things that I think my mistake, probably one of my bigger mistakes, honestly, or at least one of the most underrated mistakes I've made, this is actually a hilarious of all the last round shitter Bills wide receiver picks over the last couple of years. I feel like Moore is the best. That's kind of the point, is we keep taking last round picks because they have a jersey that is the same as our quarterback. If you would not ever take them, then maybe you guys would take Elijah Moore. So like, if that's you, cool, take him. If you wouldn't take that guy on a team that you did not draft his quarterback, why the fuck would you take him on it? You don't think he's good. The correlation is not that powerful. The correlation doesn't take a guy who's useless to being awesome, right? Because there's other Bills. There's other Bills that you could have drafted. Now, if you think Elijah Moore is just a good pick, by all means, draft away. But I'm not taking guys I think are bad picks just because they wear the same jersey as someone else on my team, right? And then if they are such a good pick that we need to take them, you should want them on all these other teams, right? Go back to our combinatorial conversation. It's like, if Elijah Moore is such a good pick because he's on the Bills that he needs to be drafted, why are you restricting the types of guys you want him, right? Why don't you ever have him? Josh Allen goes at the 2-3 turn. Would you ever take him on a team with T. Higgins and Trey McBride? If he's a good pick, he's going to go off. He shouldn't only be on Josh Allen teams. There's nuance to all of this kind of stuff, but that's the thing. I don't want to just like blindly take correlation, because I've created a correlation shortcut. That's all it is. Shout out Packarine. He's ingrained this. He's created a shortcut to a shortcut in my brain somehow. A lot of irony going on here. But the brain creates the shortcuts, and we use correlation to say, I don't really know who to pick here in the last round because they're all last round picks, So, let's do something with week 17. It's like, that's fine, but you're just as good tossing those guys into a blender, right? Not a blender, into the Yahtzee cup, right? Or a mixer, a drink mixer, and rolling them out and just picking one. You're like, all these guys are draftable. I got 20 dudes in here. Roll them out. You're just as good doing that as limiting the particular players that you're drafting them with, right? People will talk, which I've heard in our Discord. I love everyone in the Discord, but they'll be like, I only take Kendre on the Cam Ward teams. I only take Io Manor when I have Olave or whatever. And it's like, if that dude is a good pick, you should not only restrict him to having like, there's, other than they play in week 17, there's no reason that Alec Io Manor's season is dependent upon Tyler Shuck and Chris Olave. So his season and his outcome should not be directly tied to Tyler Shuck and Chris Olave. It should be, you could say it's tied to Cam Ward, but you think he's just a good pick, right? We can talk about the Cam Ward being cheap as well, all that kind of stuff. But I want to make sure that I'm like not tying myself into some of those combinations just because they're shortcuts. It's not that they're bad shortcuts. I don't want to only take the shortcut. So I think that's probably the Elijah Moore. Okay, let's review the team. The rule for anyone that has just joined and missed: on Thursdays, we spin a wheel of rules given to me by the folks in the Spike Week Discord. Some are funny, some are serious, some are in between. Some are going to suck, some are going to be fun. This one today was, I could only draft players I'm underweight on, aka less than 8% exposure players for me. So that was actually pretty fun because I got the 101 and I'm underweight Jamar Chase. I only had 5% out of 64 DraftKings teams heading into today. Jamar Chase. So you see, there we go. My team, and then we'll review why some of these things happened other than just my exposure. We take Jamar Chase at the 101. Bucky Irving. I'm not super high on Bucky Irving. He's fine, right? I had 5%, whatever. And then Josh Allen, who is actually a player after last night's lab which is also in the Spike Week Discord for the premium subscribers. Josh Allen is a player I think I'm going to start piling into a lot more, the elite quarterbacks. But then Xavier Worthy, a nice fall for Xavier Worthy, who I take so much Rushy Rice. I think the Xavier Worthy price is very debatable. So got a nice fall on him, which is nice to get him over onto this team. And then took Cortland Sutton, another player I'm underweight on. But why we might get some of these falls is because the 111 took 5 straight quarterbacks to start: Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Kyler Murray. The rest of the team looks okay. All the picks look okay, other than I guess Devin Singletary was a bad pick. So we'll see what happens with that draft. Then a small fall on Deebo Samuel, nothing crazy. I take Deebo in the 6th, another player who I'm underweight on, and then I proceeded to rant about how stupid it is that we're so worried about the speed. But I'm an idiot as well. I actually don't think Deebo is like some mega smash. I just think, we can be open to the fact that maybe he's not fat and slow. And even if he is fat and slow, he could probably score fantasy points because he plays with Jaden Daniels. So took a little bit of Deebo Samuel, even though I'm underweight. I'll probably remain underweight, but we'll see. We'll see how the summer shakes out. If he keeps falling and I can get some discounts on like Daniels Deebo stacks, that sounds pretty good. Jerry Jeudy, gross. B-Rob, right? So we got some more Washington stuff going on there. Evan Ingram for some more Broncos stuff, more players that I'm underweight on. Cam Skattebo, underweight. David Njoku has become a little bit more of a priority to me. I think the price is great. I've just honestly not gotten enough exposure. I think largely due to the fact that he's right in the middle of this QB window, right? That could be a little bit of the Skattebo thing too. I'm constantly getting quarterbacks here, which is another when that says underweight on the overweight guy. That's got to be a crime of some sort. That's good. But Njoku just happens to go in this quarterback range where I'm constantly taking the quarterbacks, which is another reason to maybe get some more elite quarterback guys. Is I'm getting underweight on dudes in this range. I don't know, Ramondre, Bateman, Shaheed, Keon, Njoku, Loveland. Oh, Kincaid went all the way up here. But like I'm getting underweight on these guys that I don't really want to be underweight on. But I'm just like constantly taking quarterbacks in this range. Kyle Williams, not like Kyle Williams, Jalen Polk, reincarnate. Hollywood Brown, not very excited about that, but I thought it made a lot of sense on this particular team, which of course built out a nice little Chiefs Broncos thing. Rico Dowdle, Justice Hill, both players I am fine with, honestly. Fit this team with kind of a hero running back room built around Bucky. Jalen Knoll, Dylan Sampson, Rashard Smith, a lot of rookies. We ended with 5 straight rookies here. 6 in the last, 10 picks? I don't think I had a rookie before then, did I? Yes, I didn't draft. We closed with a lot of rookies. So clearly there's maybe a gap with some a gap in my late round picks where I'm gravitating to. I definitely take plenty of rookies, but maybe I am overweight Jalen Royals. I'm overweight some of these other guys, and Jarquez Hunter is one of my highest owned players, and maybe there's some gaps in my portfolio looking at some of these other later round rookies if I'm underweight to all these guys. Isaac Tesla and Taj Brooks at the end. Shout out Sean Siegel and Colin Kelly for making me stop be a coward about some guys like Rashard Smith and Taj Brooks. Well, let's not give a shout out yet. Let's just let's say this is what you guys have done to me. You've turned me back into drafting rookie zeros at the end of drafts because I'm excited about those players. But yeah, the 111, somebody asked about the 111, and I would not classify that as recovering, but I'm not sure 5 straight quarterbacks is recoverable. So that clearly created some chaos in this draft, and we'll see if it holds up. We'll see how it can do, and if it makes me look very foolish because I am underweight all these guys and that team does well. I don't know what that will say about me. I'm very open-minded, but I'm also an idiot, I think, is what that would say. Before you go, may I ask you about Jonnu and the potential trade in that situation? I don't think that there's really a potential. I mean, I guess technically there's like always a potential trade on someone like that, but it's funny because when the Jonnu wanted a trade type thing came about, they're like, okay, we'll trade you to the Steelers. How about that? And he's like, yeah, no, never mind. I'm good. We're good. I think Jonnu's fine. I think we're doing the thing that we do at tight end very frequently, where Jonnu was a stone cold smash last year. I believe he was my second highest owned tight end last year. Props to me. Got something right, at least. And Jonnu was just an awesome pick last year. Has a good season. And then we catapult him way up. Like it's kind of like the Jake Ferguson or the Dallas Goedert or the whatever. We shoot the guy way up after they have a good season, and then they're probably going to, it's the nature of the tight end position. They're probably going to underwhelm. I'm not fading Jonnu Smith, but he's also not really a priority at that cost. I think he's a good football player. I think if the Dolphins have their druthers, they don't want the season to go like it did last year with Jonnu Smith. That clearly didn't work. Building the whole ship out of Jonnu Smith and Achane checkdowns. So, amen, Pat. Everyone have a good day. Stay cool out there. Shout out Parks and Rec. Good stuff. Appreciate the chill content. You and a couple other YouTubers are getting a cut of my profits this year for getting me through last month or so being stuck in bed. Wow, awesome. Not for the profits, but glad you are good to go. No longer stuck in bed. That's awesome. Thanks for hanging out. We will be back tomorrow for another same bat time, confirmed now, same bat channel, 10 a.m. Eastern. And we'll get back with some legendary sickos and all that good stuff. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit subscribe, all the typical streamer things. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.